Hi people, welcome back to my YouTube. It is your girl Honey. Welcome back. Today we are going to be talking a little bit about the Saturn Square Pluto in Synastry and how this can affect you and whether it's a good or a bad placement. I have this personally in my Synastry and I don't like it, but we definitely have to work through it, or we are working through it. But just kind of simplify things. So Pluto is the death, rebirth, crisis, trauma, transformation, crisis, power, struggles, and also represents psychologically dissolving things, whereas Saturn is your rules, regulations, restrictions, your limitations, and also where you are governing and trying to parent. So in my Synastry, I am the Saturn person. I'm very heavily Plutonic. I'm very heavy with Saturn placements, Capricorn placements. My two most domineering planets happen to be Pluto and Saturn. I am also studying psychology and counseling, so I'm always kind of psychoanalyzing things all the time. And when you're on the receiving end of that, that can get very frustrating. But when you have the Saturn squaring Pluto, how that can be really difficult in a long-term partnership is the fact that the Saturn person is trying to govern how the Pluto person is handling their Pluto. So Saturn is again trying to tell you, no, that's not how you walk, that's not how you talk, that's not how you do it this way or you do it that way. So we see a lot of like Saturn trying to govern what Pluto is doing.
When you really deep it, Pluto and Saturn are both very controlling planets. And often when two people come together and they've got controlling planets squaring each other, this is like two people that are very headstrong about particular areas in their life. And the square creates a lot of tension. And often the Saturn person can appear to be very negative. Oh my gosh, you're terrible at doing this, or you're bad at that, or you're a bad partner. You're like, Saturn has, it's like a list of expectations it has. And when it presents Pluto, the Pluto person with this list, the Pluto person automatically becomes defensive. So the Saturn person is trying to engage changes, but these changes can feel like they are demands. And the Pluto person gets defensive and it refuses almost pretty much to make these changes. So we see two people who are often battling between each other with the grievances that Saturn has. And Saturn can also take the initiative to encourage these changes from the Pluto person by initiating things like therapy or couples counseling or some sort of course or lessons or things that try to change Pluto. Pluto person will change, but they will change in their own way, not because Saturn is telling them to change.
And when Saturn is squaring Pluto, what we see is the Pluto person is trying to defend itself against Saturn by saying, look, if I want to psychologically evolve or see myself, right, I'm going to do it based on how I want to do it. But the Saturn person is saying, well, no, you're doing it completely wrong. It should be like this, or like that, or like this, or like that. And in some cases, Saturn can actually completely restrict the ability to psychologically evolve or transform, because at the end of the day, Pluto is about us acquiring some level of power. And when it comes to long-term relationships, it can be quite difficult to see who actually wears the trousers. I'm not saying that someone has to, but because the Saturn person is restricting or governing what Pluto is trying to do, we are seeing that Saturn's really trying to wear the pants unintentionally, because that is what Saturn's placement is. I'm there to authorize what you're doing. And one of the most annoying things about this square, because these are two very strong planets, and when they square each other, anything that we both find fun doing, right? If I want to sit in my studio all day and film, which could be fun to me. If I want to watch 90 Day Fiance, that is fun to me. If I want to just read a book, that is fun to me. He will have something to say about it. Because what Pluto does to Saturn is Saturn will be happy in its routine and what he wants to do, but Pluto comes in and Pluto is there to inflict that change, but also to create an emotional manipulation, a reaction, a response. And this is where we see the Saturn square Pluto issues going on. You know, it's not the most comfortable placement to be had, but it all depends on how you two are towards each other. You guys can be aware of your issues, but not let these issues govern your relationship. You have to be someone who's very open to the idea of compromise, literally. So that's what annoys me about this square, is that someone's always telling someone, you know, you're having too much fun, or coming into that person's space and invading, you know, what they got going on. It's annoying. And this is the thing about Saturn, right? Saturn is this burden, and sometimes what we do is we like to govern what, you know, Pluto is doing, because we worry about there being a burden. We worry about Pluto creating more of a burden for us. So there tends to be quite a lot of tension in the relationship. So there is a lot of tension at home, you know, in our synastry, and combining it with the composite as well. The bickering, people, when you have the Saturn squaring your Pluto, there is so much bickering that happens with this square. Like, I can be in the bath, yeah, and the bath is like my place to be, where no one can come in here. No one can bug me. I guarantee he will bug me, yeah? And he will be like, babe, and I will ignore it. This is what is annoying about having this square, is that there is always this unsettled, you know, kind of vibe between the two people. So I don't look at it as being a favorable placement at all, but it all depends on how well you both are at compromising with each other. And that's the only way to get through this particular synastry square, is to learn to compromise through each other, honey. Because the second you guys don't compromise, that if someone is compromised more than the other person, it's never going to work. So it's all about how well you both are working together. All right, that is my video. I hope you guys have thoroughly enjoyed it. I will see you guys next week. Take care.